that everything has gone wrong, it's too bad it's love. No, you don't get love. And I killed Sparky too.
Welcome back, everyone, to another WandaVision episode breakdown. So, spoilers before I get started because there were a lot of reveals and this episode was amazing. This is probably my favorite episode so far, and I think it balanced everything with Sword and everything that was going on with Sword and everything that was going on with Westview. But yeah, so let's get started. Like I said, spoiler alert because this episode has lots and lots of reveals. So yeah. So basically, the sitcom of this episode is supposed to be like Modern Family or The Office, and every time somebody speaks to the camera, and multiple characters do it. For example, Darcy, Vision, Agatha Harkness, and Wanda, and yeah. So Billy and Tommy come to her room because they basically are saying how their video games are acting weird because they were basically glitching and they changed to Uno cards eventually. But yeah, and then she basically just ignores it and they get downstairs. Also, Billy mentioned how it's noisy in his head, which I am going to say is, I think that's a reference to something, but I'll get to that later in the video. So, obviously, Wanda goes to get breakfast, but it glitches out. The milk carton just glitches out. As you can see, the milk right here, it glitches to like an 80s style, but yeah. And then, yeah. So, and then Wanda just goes to eat breakfast, and then the twins, they basically ask, what was Uncle Pietro saying about re-killing Dad? And then Wanda's pointing the remote at them very aggressively, more like saying, okay, do not listen to a word that that man says. That man is not your uncle, which is very confusing because if I heard that, then like I would be very confused. But yeah. And when they ask why, Wanda just mostly says, well, I don't have all the answers, so you better, I got none. And then she pretty much moves on, and then the door rings, so then Wanda just opens the door using her powers, and Agnes just walks in, and she pretty much takes the twins so that Wanda can be alone, because obviously her mental state is really, really bad. And then over with Sword, Hayward plans to basically nuke Westview, basically killing everybody in there just so he can kill Scarlet Witch and then he can get Vision back. But yeah. And then now over with Monica and Jimmy, who had escaped the Hex expansion. Wu gets an email on his phone saying that Darcy was able to figure out what Hayward was doing by tracking Vision. So it turns out that Hayward was trying to do the exact same thing that Wanda was doing, bring Vision back to life. So obviously, this already puts them at conflict. But the issue was Hayward was never able to bring him back until Wanda had came and stole Vision's body. So yeah. So Hayward plans to bring back Vision just to be used as a weapon. So pretty much Hayward is basically not listening to Vision's living will, because in episode 5, I think Hayward said that Vision said that he did not want to be brought back and used as a weapon, which is why the Avengers never bring it back to life, because they could have, but they decided not to out of respect for Vision. But yeah, so they arrive at the place, and turns out the contact who Monica who kept texting over the last 2 episodes was this person named Agent Goodner. Now this was kind of a letdown because they were hyping up this character for a while. So yeah. Now there is a rumor that she might be a Skrull, because she said that she is very loyal to Maria Rambeau, and then she's also loyal to Monica. And if you remember in Captain Marvel, Monica was playing Uno with her Skrull friend, so yeah, that could be possible. Plus, Hayward did mention in episode 4 that some of his astronauts had either lost their nerve to continue their astronaut thing going on with Sword, or some of them had just been blipped. But yeah, so it could be possible that she's a Skrull, but I'm not sure though, especially since Secret Invasion. But yeah, so it turns out that this is the vehicle that Monica was talking about from episode 5, and yeah, so this is what she was talking about, and she tries to penetrate the barrier, but she can't. like she was thinking it was just gonna be easy, you just go through, but it doesn't work because the hex is basically matching the exact same density as the whole like vehicle itself, and then eventually it literally starts to get sucked in by the hex. So then she has to get out, and then once she gets out, they basically spit it out, and then Monica has to go through herself. And this was my favorite part of the episode. This is the most amazing part, and this is when Monica Rambeau gets her powers as either Spectrum or Photon, but I'm not sure though. She was a version of Captain Marvel though, but yeah. So yeah, she gets her powers this way, and when she gets out, her eyes are blue, but it's pretty amazing. And then now over on the other side, so the sword camp had been turned into a circus, and Darcy had became the escape artist, which is kind of funny because I'll explain that at the around the end of the video. And then Vision catches up, and eventually Vision has to like do the exact same thing that what's it called he did on Agnes in episode 6. But yeah, so then what ends up happening is that they escape, and then right after that, Vision and Darcy talk about Vision's past. Like for example, Darcy tells him about how Thanos had to how Thanos wanted to get the mind stone out of his head. So then Wanda had to kill him, but then Thanos brought him back to life, and killed him again. But yeah, but eventually it all worked out. But yeah, so then also Vision starts talking to the camera until he's like frustrated and he's like, wait, why do I need to do this? I can just fly to her. So then that's what he ends up doing, because of course the road that apparently they're using gets blocked, which is probably because of somebody. Now Vision thought it was Wanda, but it's actually someone else. Anyway, Monica shows up at Wanda's like house, and she doesn't even knock. She literally just walks right in, and then Wanda's already so angry because yeah, she's very angry. So then she just tells her to leave, and then Wanda is like ready to yeet her out of Westview, but well, not out of Westview, but she's ready to do something way worse. But unfortunately, for her, Monica has her powers, so now she's able to fight. And then Monica's like, "Do it, take me out." And then, but Wanda doesn't, because obviously Monica says, "See, this is where you and Hayward are different. Hayward is ready to show no mercy at all costs, but you do not. Don't let him make you the villain." But then Wanda says, "Maybe I already am," but yeah. And then Agnes shows up to take her away, which is already more suspicious because Agnes already has a lot of suspicion on her. But yeah, now Vision, no, not Vision. Agnes took Wanda to her place, and she goes to the basement to find the kids. And that basement is creepy. It is very scary. I would not want to go there. Like if I had saw that, I wouldn't even go down there, honestly. And then Agnes reveals herself as not Agnes, but Agatha Harkness. So that's her real identity. And she's also a witch, like Wanda. And then we also get this amazing song that I played at the beginning of the video called Agatha All Along. It was pretty funny though. And then she also reveals that she killed Sparky, which is just very uncalled for. Now anyway, on to some Easter eggs. So, and we also get an ad in this episode for Nexus. I didn't forget about that, but yeah, it was about Nexus pills, but yeah. And anyway, so the first detail I want to point out that I said at the beginning was about Tommy's noise in his head. Now, Tommy has no, not Tommy, Billy. Billy has powers similar to Wanda, and Tommy has powers similar to Pietro. So obviously, there were a lot of references that you might have missed. For example, they were fighting over the remote earlier, which I did not show in my recap. But yeah, they were fighting over the remote, and Billy mentions how Tommy always gets it first, which is because he has super speed. But yeah, and then back to the noise issue. Now, the reason why he hears all this is because remember, his powers are similar to Wanda, so he can read people's minds. He can like give people weird things, and he can read people's thoughts pretty much. So yeah, so he can do that, and that's why eventually when he was with Agnes inside their house, and Agnes was able to block his mind reading, then yeah, so that's why he felt satisfied. But yeah, so yeah, and also because basically they have the same powers. The only difference between the two is that Wiccan has like blue energy, even though Wanda's is red. But yeah, so anyway, this person was foreshadowed from the last 2 episodes, and it was kind of a letdown that it kind of turned out just to be some random person. This is literally not a character from the Marvel comics. Like, this is literally a new character. Like, people thought that like this would actually be Reed Richards, even though that was very unlikely. due to the fact that like that movie isn't coming out for like a long time. But yeah. And then, by the way, this scene where my favorite scene in this episode where Monica gets her powers is literally parallel to Captain Marvel. But yeah. So Darcy, what's funny about this scene is that Darcy, as the escape artist in this circus, I'm assuming, is funny because she was chained up. So that's just funny. But yeah. So yeah. Yeah, so she's the escape artist because remember that sword agent had chained her up to the car, so that's probably what happened. In fact, this is probably the exact same car that like she was chained up on, but yeah. So yeah. And also Vision talks about Vision was originally meant to be a man named Jarvis. Well, I'll tell you his story in the comics. So in the comics, he was originally the Human Torch. No, not the Chris Evans one in the Fantastic Four movie, just like the Human Torch. In fact, there was a reference to that in First Avenger, in Captain America: The First Avenger. But yeah, so he was originally supposed to be that, and then eventually he was upgraded to Vision, and then that's how. But in the MCU, Jarvis, which is his code, was Tony Stark's butler when he was a little kid, and since his parents were mostly busy and stuff like that, and they never spent time with him, Jarvis did most of that. But yeah, so honestly though, I think that and also Jarvis does show up in Agent Carter, so yeah, um, so yeah. And then Tony Stark, once he became Iron Man, he used Jarvis as his name, and that is when a Vision is born because he's used to be a code. But yeah, and then eventually after that, he was purposed to be Vision by Ultron, and then yeah. So by the way, this is a detail I wanted to mention a lot because here's why. So the Nexus, so this is an ad for Nexus pills. Now the Nexus shards were used to help defeat King the Conqueror in this video game called Lego Marvel Superheroes 2. But yeah, and then and apparently they were used to help defeat King the Conqueror. You see the one that Spider-Man's holding? They were used to defeat King the Conqueror, who is going to be in Ant-Man 3, played by Jonathan Majors. So this might be hinting towards something that's going to happen in like the next Avengers movie, but I'm not sure though. It might happen, it might not, but I don't know. Maybe the Nexus will have something to do with it. Also, fun fact, characters like Wanda, Jean Grey, and Kang the Conqueror are all Nexuses, meaning that they are the same person in all the multiverses. Like there aren't like different versions of them, but yeah. So yeah, and then also she got her Monica has her powers now, and I'm pretty sure after WandaVision, Monica is gonna show up in either Secret Invasion or in Captain Marvel 2. I think what most likely is she'll show up in Secret Invasion because Monica is kind of tied with Sword and the Skrulls, so that's most likely what's up with her. But yeah, and yeah. Now this episode was amazing. Yeah, this episode was amazing. Click here for my last video breakdown and subscribe.